Welcome back. This is turn 3's recap and turn 4 options for the Roman invasion of Britain AD 43 campaign. If you haven't already, do please like and subscribe so you won't miss out in the future, and go and check us out on the Facebook page so you'll also be kept updated. For this campaign we've also got the Discord server, link down below. And the campaign that we're using is found in the Shatter of Spears, Thunder of Chariots rulebook that I've released, and you can find that on my Coffee channel. So during turn 3, the Britons launched assaults from both the east and the west. So we had a combined Silures Dutriges invasion into Atrebates territory, leading to one battle, and the Iceni and the Cataluvani attacking the Romans. In response, the Romans and the Atrebates moved to meet them in the west, whilst in Cataluvania, the Romans themselves, one of the legions got held up, the second marched on a village. The legion that was held up did get attacked. So if you want to skip the battle reports and jump straight to the results, then move forwards to 1346. Otherwise, let's get into it. So the battlefield was set up using the card-driven terrain system from the rulebook, and it ended up with a quite hilly, with a light bit of forest and scrubland with a lake to the north. We start on the table with the first of the Atrebates infantry, or not just infantry, they've got one heavy, one light, and a cavalry detachment. And falling upon them are the Silures, the sort of combined forces. We don't know where their scout cavalry is at the moment, but at the start of the battle they're going to have a slight advantage, very slight. In due course, at this stage we don't know, we will be rolling for reinforcements. We do have one group of Atrebates who will be arriving somewhere in this top quarter or quadrant. We've got another group of Atrebates who are coming up, and they'll be entering somewhere in this lower half. And then for the sort of the Britons of the Silures and the Ordovices and the Durotriges sort of alliance, we've got two more columns who will be arriving somewhere along this bottom side, so the west, as it would be. So at the end of turn 1, not a huge amount of movement. The Atrebates have just moved their light infantry forward slightly, and the Silures have advanced with their light infantry and the chariots towards them, waiting to see whether we get any reinforcements this next turn. So at the start of turn 2, we've rolled for reinforcements and surprises. The Silures had hidden one of their cavalry units. For a bit of randomness, they would be in any of the they could be in any of the scenery locations. They could be hidden behind a hill, in the scrub, in the heavy woods, etc. And then if the enemy moved within range, then we would just roll to see whether they appeared. The enemy light infantry got within range, 6 centimeters of the scrub. We rolled again, and it just happened that the light cav were there, so they've appeared, and now they've immediately charged. The main force has advanced, with the chariots racing forwards again into contact with the light infantry. And the Durotriges, or Triges, their first column has arrived on the field. So the Atrebates still waiting forlornly, it seems, for their reinforcements to arrive. There's no horns in the distance at this stage. So it was a bit of a foregone conclusion. Light skirmish infantry getting hit on the flank by cav and to the front by chariots, and they are wiped out. Then the cavalry and the chariots push on, and we'll have a second round of combat to see what happens there. So it was pretty catastrophic. The first group of the Atrebates, although outnumbered, have just been annihilated. They put up a pretty stoic defense and inflicted some good casualties on the cavalry and the chariots, but being hit on the flank, having seen their friends just wiped out as well, and their commander getting cut down, they broke and got ridden down. So as we moved into turn 3, the anti-Roman forces had the initiative, which stands to reason seeing as they were the only ones on the board. One of the good things or interesting things about the rules that we're using are that you've got to be within command range of your troops to be able to order them to do anything. So the commanders had to make a decision: are we going to shore up against potential enemy incursions to the north or to the south? And they chose to move over and move their infantry against the potential threat from the north. Turns out both enemy forces have arrived on the same turn. So with the commanders having moved over and activated the infantry, the cavalry and chariots have stayed stationary this turn. The Durotriges, they carried on advancing. They could see the Atrebates had moved up onto the hilltop, and so they couldn't be held back. They're just moving as quickly as they possibly can to try and take them on. So turn 4 saw the anti-Roman forces gain the initiative again. Again, that sort of conflict of what to do with their orders. They decided this time they were going to bring their mounted units back round, and they've advanced with their light infantry to get into range for their javelins. On the other side of the battlefield, all of the Durotriges have now arrived, so they're all streaming up the road towards the small detachment of Atrebates holding out on the hilltop. Considering the number of troops coming against them pretty well on all fronts now, the Roman alliance has decided that discretion is the better part of valour and have decided to withdraw from the field. So hopefully they'll be able to get off without suffering too many casualties. And now our second battle saw the Roman legion that had sort of conflicting orders. They got attacked by the Iceni and the Catavolani. So in our second battle of the turn, the Roman legion was basically caught flat-footed. Their orders were confused, so they decided they would stay put. They feared the Iceni might be coming across, so they set up a field camp. But to their shock and horror, the Iceni had come across, so they were right in waiting. But now the Iceni have arrived, and at the same time, a Catavolani force has emerged out of the darkness of the woods, and so they are now hemmed in on two sides, fighting for their lives. The battlefield itself, we've got hills in opposite corners, a stream running into a lake, a reasonable amount of open ground around the camp itself, and then in between each of these sort of clumps of foliage, that is dense forest. So at the end of turn 1, we had general advance by the Catavolani. The Romans in their fort held fast, and the Iceni in the distance made their move, starting to advance towards the Roman lines. As far as shooting was concerned, the only thing this turn was the scorpion bolt throwers from the Romans fired onto the Catavolani cavalry and actually inflicted 4 damage, which was good. More importantly, they inflicted a wound on the commander of the Catavolani forces, so that's pretty good news for them. That's Caractacus himself. So he's only taken 1 bit of damage, but still, every little helps from the Roman perspective. So at the end of turn 2, the Britons on both sides carried on their advance, the cavalry and chariots getting into position to attack. Now that the infantry have moved a bit closer, we had an exchange of javelins, bows, slings, you name it, getting hurled at each other. The Romans did slightly better. Again, the bolt thrower inflicted a bit of damage on the cavalry. The legionaries threw some pilums into the mob of Briton infantry, whilst the Briton light infantry threw their javelins back, inflicting a little bit of disorganisation onto the Romans. But nothing too major occurred this turn. So turn 3, and so far we've had ranged fire. Good shooting from the Romans. Over here, the light infantry on the walls threw their pilums, inflicted minimal casualties on the cavalry, but wounded Caraticus again, so he is suffering a little bit there. And over on this side, leading the charge, the second Cadavolani leader, leading from the front, took a pilum to the face and got killed outright, so not good for the Cadavolani, but they have reached the walls. The cavalry are now engaged with chariots, and the Iceni cavalry reached their target, but unfortunately the chariots didn't quite make it. They also got shot up a bit by pilums as they came in, but time to see what happens. So at the end of turn 3, the situation is relatively unchanged. The cavalry action up in the north, the Cadavolani cavalry and chariots overwhelmed the Romans and destroyed the first of the Roman cavalry units. The Iceni cavalry and chariots had made their move, however they were beaten by the Romans. So that is now a sort of a combat which will continue into the next turn, because the Cadavolani have moved into contact with the Romans. And the first of the Briton infantry that attacked the walls were repelled. They suffered pretty heavy casualties, and then they broke. So the first unit to break goes to the Britons. So the situation at the end of turn 4, the Roman cavalry have been destroyed. The Iceni chariots came through, inflicting heavy damage, but also pinning them in place for the Cadavolani cav and chariots to hit them and destroy them from the flank and the rear. The main infantry assaults, though, from the Cadavolani have been repulsed, unfortunately for the Britons. However, they have inflicted some good casualties on the Romans. The Iceni main assault itself, though, has not really materialised at this stage due to battlefield communication and lack of their main commander. He went forwards with the cav and the chariots, leaving a less than useful commander to bring up everyone else, and so they are struggling. So at the start of turn 5, the decision was made by the Britons that they've inflicted casualties, they've pinned the Roman force, they've kind of done what they set out to do, but they're not equipped to be able to do a proper siege, and they would lose too many of their troops if that was what they set in for. So at this stage they're going to withdraw. Overall, battle is a draw. Neither side has won, neither side has lost. You could say the Romans are the victors for holding the field, but they have lost all of their cavalry contingent, so it's more a draw than anything. So this is our strategic positions at the end of the turn. So if you want to vote on what we're doing next, head over to the YouTube page, the homepage, and go on to posts, and that's where I will post the different options for both sides. Also, head over to the Discord channel if you want to get a little bit more involved and work together, so you can join the Britons or the Romans, and you can come up with your own plans. You can speak to me behind the scenes on setting up ambushes, even assassination attempts. That's where you'll do that, so you can get a little bit more in detail if you wish to. The links are down in the description for all of the different locations. Again, the rules that we're using for fighting the battles and the campaign are my own. It's called Shatter of Spears. It's available on my Coffee channel, so please jump on over to there to get a copy of that so you can play along as we are, and also you can understand a bit more about all the dynamics of the campaign itself. But until next week, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Go and vote so that we know what we're doing, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, guys.